Alright, catch up on what I've been doing. I took a red oak burl that I harvested a few years ago and took it to the bandsaw and cut it down into kind of a triangle shape. It kind of looks kind of like a mountain inside this polypropylene mold, if you will. The mold was from the bottle stopper mandrel that I ordered from Penn State. And it's down inside here, and I super glued it to just a plastic bagging. And keep in mind when you do that, the bag could either be made out of HDPE or polypropylene. Probably HDPE. Super glue does not stick well to HDPE, or polypropylene. That's why they're great choices for mold because they release well. So if you do that, the super glue will work, but just don't move it around because you could run the risk of breaking the seal. Now let's mix up some resin. And anytime you work with wood inside of resin, I just stuck that down to the bottom. I mean, it wasn't sealed, so what'll happen, resin will gradually kind of flow underneath it, and then you will get these bubbles that come up periodically. You could do a full glue on the flat side of the blank. You're going to be turning it off anyway, and that would stop that from happening. But it shouldn't be a big deal. Okay, so you may have noticed that I didn't have enough resin. That was all I had. I thought I had more to complete the full blank, but that's okay. I have a little something I'm going to use. It's going to be a little different, but I think it'll be all right. And if you notice all these air bubbles in there, I wanted those in there because I think it's going to give it a good look. And this resin takes so long to cure. Most of that's just going to float to the top and pop anyway. But we're going to give it about 30-45 minutes, and I'm going to show you what I'll do next. Okay, real quick, while we're waiting this to harden up, I want to show you what I have going on for a fix. Not an ideal fix, but a fix nonetheless to not having enough volume right here. I have Bondo fiberglass resin, and for anyone that hasn't used this fiberglass resin for anything, it smells like absolute death. Maybe you've seen this in a video on Facebook. I don't think this one ever made YouTube. But I made a beer bottle just as proof of concept, and it's hard, but it smelled as bad turning it as it did in its liquid state. A chemical respirator is mandatory in my opinion, and it's not good for you. So while this has very low odor, this is very pungent, very awful. And I don't really even know how well it's going to adhere to the Easy Cast resin, but we'll find out. So I'm going to make it black. It's that ugly amber color. It's not even translucent and pretty. If it was cool, I'd just leave it alone, but it's not. So I'm going to dye it black, and I'm going to add Parallax powder. So I think that'll be kind of neat. We're going to call it, like when I sand it, I think it'll have air bubbles in it because it's notorious for air bubbles. While I wanted them in this, I don't want it in necessarily the top layer. But I don't have a pressure pot as of yet. I'm looking for them. So I'm going to accentuate them. When I sand it out, I expect that the little pocks from the air bubbles will have sanding residue in it, and I'll just leave them in there, and I'll set it all with CA glue when I'm finished. Okay, so here's the finished product. My hybrid bottle stopper blank. To recap, it's just red oak burl that I cut into kind of a little pyramid shape. I was going for a theme, it just kind of failed in execution, but I think it's going to be pretty. And there's a big bubble here from what I told you about the resin kind of collecting gradually under the blank that was just stuck in the mold, and the burl that was stuck in the mold, so that it kind of developed some bubbles. But other than that, it turned out well. I think most of that will just turn off when I turn it around.